California landlords, here's another reason why you don't want to really sit on a non-payment rent situation. It might come back to haunt you, costing you more money in the long run. Hi, my name is Rob Wells. I'm the Landlord Warrior on TikTok and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our videos. Now, I was talking with a couple of other landlords a couple of days ago, and these two landlords, for whatever reason, I'm just running into tenants potentially considering filing bankruptcy and so forth. And these landlords right here were facing that predicament right here, was asking me what they can do and so forth. The general good news is this: I can tell landlords is, hey, listen, if your tenant's contemplating filing bankruptcy and they're not going to pay the rent, usually we can get them out of possession of the property, okay? And that's after, you file the appropriate court paperwork with the bankruptcy court to get permission to, be excluded from the automatic stay. The automatic stay is a court order. Anytime you file a bankruptcy case, that usually applies. It protects a debtor or a tenant in this case from, creditors, including the landlord, from pursuing an eviction without court permission to move forward from the bankruptcy court. The good news is, in a lot of cases where a tenant is not continuing to pay their rent and they won't pay their rent ongoing, you can get that bankruptcy stay lifted and you can pursue with your eviction case in the county court where it's at, okay? The bad news is, for a lot of landlords, and this is why I tell landlords don't sit on a bunch of unpaid rent, is in many cases, rent is a consumer debt and it's an unsecured debt. So in many bankruptcies, Chapter 7, Chapter 13 bankruptcy, the estate usually doesn't have enough money to pay the unsecured creditors. You're like on the bottom of the list, basically, right? And guess what? When you're on the bottom of the list, basically, your debt gets discharged. It's uncollectible, basically. For a lot of my landlords that probably watch the channel, they could have a judgment. They have judgments for several years, basically, and they're basically virtually uncollectible because the tenant doesn't have any assets. Another reason why you don't want to sit on unpaid rent is, in California, they amended the debtors rules basically to allow a landlord can only renew a consumer judgment basically for rent like one time for 1 5-year term. I believe the limits are, if it's under $50,000 or less, basically it's considered a consumer debt. You get one renewal on the judgment, and if you can't collect the rent after the initial 10-year term plus do a renewal for a 5-year term, that debt's gone, okay? So kiss your money goodbye. It's best usually to act fairly quickly to get possession of the property back. I know that may sound mean and so forth like that, but that's usually where my landlords are saving money, because rent that is, added to the unpaid balance basically becomes virtually uncollectible, basically. And if you go 6, 7, 8 months with uncollected rent, you can probably kiss that money goodbye, okay? A lot of landlords with me sometimes get upset about that situation, but that's kind of the reality with these cases, or at least the cases that I deal with, okay? Some landlords might have success. The tenants might actually have gainful employment and assets, but a lot of folks that are not paying the rent don't really have anything to collect rent and so forth. That's why they're not paying the rent in the first place usually, okay? So landlords, if you've got a rent pay situation, act fairly quickly, okay, with that. Don't sit around, all right? Because it's going to cost you in the long run with the unpaid. You could have a tenant that's paying rent on time and so forth, and instead of having someone, not paying rent. Landlords, if you're in the Northern California area and you got a non-payment of rent situation and you need help trying to figure things out, feel free to reach out. We might be able to help out. Put your comments, questions down below. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Until next time, folks, I'll talk to you then. Thanks.